start. Okay, let's see who's in here. Okay, I have to figure out how to do that. I have to figure out how to do that. But welcome everyone. I'm going to be let me make sure I'm getting everything together. Please be patient with me. This morning. Hi, my lovely. Hi, my lovely. Hmm. So you see me struggling, okay? You see me struggling. Um, hold on. Okay, guys. Can you hear me? Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am admitting from another account. So please bear with me as I am learning this particular platform. But my darling angel, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna discuss how to do this with you after class. So I'm just gonna keep going because right now it's not giving me the option to make you an admin. So I'm just going to be dealing with it as is, okay? But thank you, darling. I appreciate you. Um, hey, Rich, how are you? Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I gotta figure that out later. Definitely gotta figure that out later. But so today, just let me know if you guys can hear me, right? Today is an interesting day. Let me make sure you guys can. I'm glad I don't have to use my ring light. So I have my screen on this side so I can see what's going on. Just so I can use my back camera. But let's start. Okay. Hopefully you guys have your notebooks. Okay, so today's element of self-mastery is metaphysics, okay? Okay, so today's title is the truth of our reality. So I want to make sure that while a lot of us who are on the path already, we have definitely done some research. One thing I want to make sure I do is give you guys an understanding from our perspective of how this universe is, what reality is, and basically just make sure we all get into the understanding of why we say Yoniverse, okay? One thing that scientists are still trying to figure out is understanding the Yoniverse in its complexity, okay? Right now, the best way to understand something is to observe it, right? The best way for us to know about something is we have to either experience it or be able to perceive it in some way, right? So what we're going to be dealing with is the observable universe, because outside of that, we can't possibly know, right? We can speculate, but we can't possibly know. So we're going to deal with the just the action of perceiving, the action of observing. Okay. So we're going to be defining a few words today. Going to be defining a few words today. So we're going to start with who text. Oh, I'm just seeing your text, Angel. That's fine. Hilarious. Okay, so one thing I want to begin with is defining the universe. Okay. So the universe is considered to be the whole world, the cosmos, the totality of existing things. Okay. So let me break down universe, uni, which means one or coming all into one, and verse, which means to change or to turn. Okay. This is the etymology behind universe. So it says, all together, all in one, whole, entire, relating to all. Okay. And then it says here that verse means turned into one, from unus, which is Latin, and versus, which is also Latin, which means past participle of vertere, which means to turn, turn back or be turned, converted, transformed, translate, and be changed. So this is very interesting that this is exactly what universe means. I think a lot of times what we perceive as the universe, we are thinking that the universe is a place, a physical place. Now, we're going to have to get into the physicality of the universe. We're going to get into that in a second. But I want you to make sure you pay attention to this. Turns into one. Okay, turned into one. So what we're getting here is before we get into the physicality of the universe, this is actually alluding to the path of consciousness or the path of spirit. And if you remember, one of the things that I taught you guys previously in one of my classes is the path of the spirit and how it takes on the path of the water cycle, right? So there's so much interconnectedness with how the universe works and how we operate, which gives us a blueprint of the divine or cosmic order, right? Because people speak about the cosmos or the universe as it is a chaotic place or there is no order to it. But the more we get into class, you'll realize that there is an order, a divine order, basically a blueprint to how things manifest and show up in our reality that gives us this existence in the first place. Okay. So my nose is itching me. So I apologize for the sniffles. Okay, so from the universe, we have to understand how we're going to come to understand it. And the best way to come to understand the universe is by perceiving it. Because how else would we know something without perceiving it? So we have, always have to remember how to spell perceive. Perceive, which means to uh, observe or what's the word they use? Acknowledge. Okay. To become aware of something by the use of the senses. Okay. So understanding that perception is based upon the tools in which we use to perceive. So this is basically letting you know that in order to perceive, we're not just utilizing our eyes, we're also utilizing the other sense organs that gives us our five senses. So smell, taste, touch, hearing, and sight. Okay. So with that, we are also utilizing all of our senses, but I need to let you know that when it comes to perception, our ability to perceive is limited. Okay. Our ability to perceive is limited, so it creates a particular dimensional field in which we can operate in, which actually differs from other entities and beings on this planet. Okay, the way in which we measure something, because that's how we understand dimension, right? Dimension, people would also think is a physical place. Dimension is it's really just a way in which we are able to measure a spatial. Uh, it's of the process of measuring space. Okay, that's what a dimension is. So when we are thinking about length times width or Yeah. So when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about the first dimension, the second dimension, the third dimension. One thing we're realizing is that we only know as much we're able to perceive because notice everything can be proven up until the third dimension. And once it comes to the fourth dimension, we are now speculating or creating a simulation of what it could or what it would look like utilizing the knowledge that we have. So in general, it shows that we are existing in a third dimension and we can't perceive dimensions higher than us. So again, as we're dealing with certain frequencies, we come to understand our limitations with what we can perceive, right? Okay. Okay, so from the perception, I want to deal with, before I get into this, I want to deal with how we are able to see, okay? From the way in which our eyes are able to perceive. Let me erase this. Hope you guys got this down, right? The way in which our eyes see, okay? I want to show you guys something. And if I was able to show you some pictures, I would. Okay, can anyone recognize this symbol? Can you recognize this symbol? Tell me what you think this symbol is. I'll give you a second to respond. And this has to do with the way in which we're able to proceed. So that's a clue, a hint. But tell me what you think the symbol is. Have you seen it before? Is it familiar to you? Reminds you of unit? The Taurus field. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Come on, you're getting close. You're getting close. Let me make sure. Okay. So, do you want me to tell you? Yes, the ultimate. This is the this is the sigil for Lucifer. Okay, this is the sigil for Lucifer, and it's very interesting because Lucifer, if we understand Lucifer uh, in Latin, right? Because of course everything comes from Latin. Everything comes from Latin, but Lucifer was known as the light bringer, right? Right. So Lucifer, the light bringer or illumination. So understanding that this is the sigil, because this is the way in which light enters the eye. Okay. So what we have here, if you were to turn these into circles, these would be the eyeballs. And what we're seeing here is this is the direction in which light waves hit the eyes, okay? So this is the direction in which the light waves hit the eyes, and they actually cross because these are, of course, the two hemispheres of the brain, right? And everything crisscrosses in the brain in which how we perceive or register information, okay? So this is the wave in which light hits the eyes before it turns into electrical signals in the back of our brain, okay? So the process is first light passes through the cornea, which is the clear layer of the eye. The cornea is shaped like a dome and bends light to help the eye focus, okay? So some of this light enters the eye through an opening called the pupil. The iris colored part of the eye controls how much light the pupil lets in. Next, the light passes through the lens, which is a clear part of the eye. The lens works together with the cornea to focus the light correctly on the retina. When the light hits the retina, which is a light-sensitive layer of tissue at the back of the eye, special cells called photoreceptors turn the light into electrical signals. So these electrical signals travel from the retina through the optic nerve to the brain. Then the brain turns the signals into images that you see, okay? So I'm gonna be able to show you guys what it looks like, if you can see. This is how light is photosynthesized through the eyes and turns into electrical signals, and it is processed in the brain to create an image. Notice in the back you see a tree, right? So this is just the understanding of how the eyes work. And I want you to pay attention to the one thing that it says, when it comes to the light and how it bends, okay? So this is what's called light refraction, okay? This is when the light wave bends through a glass prism. Hey, what's going on with my chalk? And from here, what we have is the separation of color. So when the light basically goes through, you have, right? So we have, let's say the light is focused within here. Out comes the different colors. Okay, so just helping you guys understand how this works. So that means that from this light, we have the different frequencies and they come out angular in order. So the same way in which the light hits the eye, the very first part of the eye in which the light comes into, before it is transferred and turned into an image, it actually, the light itself is bent by the first layer or the clear layer, which is shaped like a dome in front of the eye before it enters the pupil, right? So once it does that, once it's this area, the clear dome, if this is when it turns into blue, red, all the different colors, and it is registered into the brain and it turns into an image in this area. Okay, so pay attention to that because we can definitely, in another class, get into the dome and the firmament and the shape of the earth. But I'm not going to get into that today. Okay, because I know how people act once you start coming out as a flat earther, right? So I'm not going to get into that whole situation. But notice this is just how the universe works and the similarities and correlations between just the human eye as well as the earth. So we're getting into the ideas of the microcosm and the macrocosm, okay? So because each color represents a different frequency, one thing I want you guys to realize is that when it comes to humans, we're only able to see a certain amount, okay? So, first of all, frequency is our ability to perceive. It actually is a measurement in which we can utilize to determine how much perception we have in this reality. Okay? So humans, it's said to be able to see the visible light spectrum for humans is, kitty be quiet. Okay, the visible light spectrum for humans is 400 to 790 terahertz. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to find my comparison to animals, right? So it says most animals see the world differently than humans. Dogs and most predators lack certain color receptors, making them colorblind, whereas insects and birds can detect UV light. Okay, and it is said that the mantis shrimp is said to have the highest spectrum of visible light. Okay, so humans also have a limited amount of auditory. Okay, okay, so the audio spectrum is usually 20 20 hertz to 20 um, kilohertz. If I'm remembering that correctly. Okay, it says that human infants can actually hear frequencies slightly higher than 20 kilohertz, but lose some high frequency sensitivity as they mature. So infants, actually the infants can see up to 20 kilohertz, but adults see 15 to 17. So notice that as we're uh, on this earth or in this particular reality for some time, notice the deterioration within our able to perceive the reality, right? This also goes back to how I told you that there is a process of de-evolution when it comes to existence. So when we are focusing on our ability or our level of consciousness as a species, and we started in the golden age or the golden era when we had our highest level of consciousness, our highest ability to perceive, all of our senses were enabled at that time, we can see how over time we begin to deteriorate or devolve, which is how we ended up getting the different sexes and the different races and things of that nature. So this small instance of how we are born, even in this one lifetime, how we're born, being able to hear a certain auditory spectrum of wavelength, and as we grow in this same lifetime, it deteriorates to where we start hearing less and less of that auditory spectrum. It shows exactly that process, but in a smaller scale. So what you gonna call it, there is a particular, what is it, the moth. Let's see if I can find it. I forget. Okay, so several animal species can hear frequencies well beyond the human hearing range. Some dolphins and bats, for example, can hear frequencies over 100 kilohertz. Elephants can hear sounds at 16 hertz to 12 kilohertz, while some whales can hear infrasonic sounds as low as 7 hertz. Researchers have discovered that the greater wax moth is capable of sensing sound frequencies up to 300 kilohertz, the highest recorded frequency sensitivity of any animal in the natural world. Okay, so the wax moth. Okay, yeah, I'm just checking the comments really quickly. But yeah, if you guys have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I want to make sure I get those and go over those so I don't miss anything. So this means that animals actually experience a different dimension than we do. And the only reason is because they're able to perceive a lot different than we can. So remember earlier when I defined dimension, it was a way in which we can measure a spatial element, right? So a dimension itself is not a physical place. It's really just a matter of which we can measure something. So if we can measure something by our ability to perceive it, then that creates itself a separate dimension. So if we're here and we only can see up to 790, and then we have animals that can see up to 1,000, that means they're on a different dimension than we are. Okay. So one thing I don't like is that when we as humans or scientists or whatever, we think we're so smart, right? We have this this higher than thou type of attitude, so that when we start uh, analyzing and trying to learn and understand animals and their consciousness, I hate the fact that they have concluded that only humans are conscious beings, right? Whereas the rest of reality does not have consciousness. So that actually bothers me, because just because animals have a different spectrum of conscious awareness than you, it doesn't mean that they do not have it. You understand what I'm saying? And the same thing with plants and trees and rocks, or things that we would consider to be inanimate objects. And this actually goes back to ancient knowing of animism, because one thing that all the ancients knew is that there was spirit in everything, which means everything has the ability to be aware of itself. Everything has consciousness. So just like when you go into a forest or a park or whatever, and you're able to go ahead and speak to a tree, that means that it is conscious and aware of you, especially if you have experienced a tree moving its branches to embrace you, right? Or the tree being able to give you information if you ask for it, in a humble way, of course. But also just the fact that there is a neural network that is underneath the ground, to where each tree, while it may look still and doing nothing to us, it actually communicates with each other and actually sends nutrients to each other to help the health and to help each other thrive, right? So just like I was speaking about this, I forgot when I was speaking about this, but I think I was speaking about this yesterday, about what love is and how love is healing, right? And I expressed it in a way in which humans are a part of an ecosystem with this planet, just as we were to look at any ecosystem on the planet and realize if we were to remove any one element of that ecosystem, the whole ecosystem would die, right? So that's the same thing. If we tend to remove ourselves from the earth, this is the reason why our entire ecosystem, which would be our entire planet, is actually dying, because we have removed ourselves from earth, right? So we have to go back and be connected with the earth and be able to take care of it, because that's the frequency of love, right? So the frequency of love is a resonance within itself. And when you operate on that frequency, which is 528 hertz, right? It's 528 hertz. So when you operate on that frequency, there's certain actions that you take. There's a certain energy that you emit that enables everything around you to thrive and be healthy. Okay, this is why I tell people that love is healing, right? So again, understand that while we may operate within different dimensions, we are on the same plane of existence. Okay, does that make sense? So is the dimensions are different from realities, or the multiverse, right? When we're speaking about the multiverse, we're talking about different realities, but different realities and different dimensions are two totally different things. Dimensions are the way in which you perceive your level of perception, right? And how you're able to measure that. So the universe or the multiverse is different realities. Different realities would mean that there is an alternate universe where if you made a particular decision that is different from the decision that you made today, it would exist as well. It's a whole different timeline, right? And it exists simultaneously as this reality is existing, Okay, so those are two different things. Dimensions can exist simultaneously within the same reality, whereas realities exist separate from each other, but at the same time. Okay, I just want to let that be known. Okay, so from dimensions, one dimension that we realize that we actually visit is the dream realm. Okay, so when we are talking about dreams, dreams is a way in which we can understand how we observe. Okay, so dreams, in a sense, is the same way in which we're able to see right now. So right now, um, again, light is coming in through our eyes and it is being transmuted and turned into images, right? So dreams is actually more peculiar because that's when we're sleeping. So when we're sleeping, how in the world do images formulate if our eyes are closed, right? So this is when we're speaking about the third eye or the pineal gland. So the pineal gland, uh, let me see if I remember how to spell it. So dreams are produced by the release of DMT or dimethyl. Hold on, I think I got it. Okay, I remember how to spell it. Dimethyltryptamine. All right, dimethyltryptamine is a chemical that's released in the brain that causes hallucinogenic effects. So what happens is along with this, you're also releasing serotonin, melatonin. There's a lot of other different chemicals that's being released while you're sleeping. But dimethyltryptamine is the chemical that causes light to appear in darkness. Because once you close your eyes, you're in the primordial chaos again, right? So when you're in the primordial chaos, the only thing that has to happen, because the darkness does not just exist just as darkness forever. With the natural occurrence that happens from darkness is light appears. Okay, so we're talking about the it's called Maya or illusion. Okay, so Maya is the Sanskrit word that actually explains the phenomena of how the ultimate consciousness creates reality. Okay, the ultimate consciousness creates reality by a natural process of creating light. Okay, and so from darkness, light is created. And from that, what we have is our perception of that light, which gives us all the different colors, all the different frequencies, all the different images that we see. So the images that we see or the objects that we think are solid are truly different, um, it's truly different light waveforms that we give shapes. Okay? Light waveforms that we give shape. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there has been an experiment called where they actually tried their very best to observe photons or particles of light and what they do. So what happens is it's called the double slit experiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put different articles where you guys can just do further reading if you want, and you can go into the description and be able to look at these particular articles and be able to read it yourself, because I'm just paraphrasing from memory. But the double slit experiment was a way in which they realized that light wave particles or photons kind of move in an erratic type of situation where it would seem as though they exist in a space of possibility until an observer is looking at it. So once an observer observes the light wave particles, they tend to act in accordance to being observed. Okay. So that means that as the observer, you have an impact on the reality in which you are perceiving. So this is the reason why a lot of times we are able to create our realities. This is why we're co-creators, right? This is the reason why. So again, from this understanding, this is why we have quote unquote the illusion, because these particular eyes, the two eyes that we have, is showing us what we have made ourselves see, if that makes sense. We have an element of control over what it is that we see, what it is that we perceive, right? So the only true way of having sight or the ultimate reality is the eye that isn't exposed to the illusions of this reality. So that would be our third eye or our first eye, if that's what you want to call it, right? So the pineal gland is, and the process in which it creates dimethyltryptamine is actually the whatchamacallit, the natural process of how primordial chaos creates light, right? It's actually the closest action to the creator creating reality. That's what that is. So as we go to sleep every night and we produce a dream during our REM sleep, and REM sleep is basically rapid eye movement. So during that time, our brains are acting as if we are responding to stimuli of a waking state. So we're sleeping, but our bodies believe that we are awake. And the reason why is because we have created a reality in another dimension that we are existing in two dimensions at once. Okay? Or two realities, as I like to say, because, and this is why when it comes to sleep, I tell people safe travels, because once you go to sleep, you're definitely going to travel to a different reality. Okay. You're going to travel to a different reality and exist in a different dimension where you can be you or you can be somebody else. You know what I mean? So this is why I think dreams in general are so important, but dreams actually show us the power that we have as mini microscopic versions of our creatress, right? So that's very, very interesting. Okay, yeah, so basically, the pineal glands, I need to get another chalk, would act as the prism, right? The dimethyltryptamine would be the the light waves, right? The pineal gland acts as the prism, and then the brain would definitely do the same thing as the eyes would do, and basically register the light and all those frequencies as images. So then we're just experiencing a whole other reality. So so now we're getting into the understanding that, let me erase Now we're getting into the understanding that this reality is not technically physical. It's not technically physical because let me fix this. So this reality is not. Where's my chalk? Okay. This reality is not technically physical because what we're realizing, if you've been keeping up so far, let me know if you're keeping up so far, right? Is that what we have is light particles or photons, as they call it. But what are these light particles existing in to where they can live in a wave of possibilities? Like, how are they existing and how can we perceive it? Like, what is it separate from in which that we know that this is a light particle, right? And what they're existing is something called dark matter, okay? Okay, so we have photons existing as light in a state of possibility, right? In a state of possibility, and they exist within dark matter. Now, dark matter, right? Dark matter it makes up about 85 to 95% of the yoni. Okay. Now, dark matter is what scientists call it. But dark matter, what I call is that primordial substance in which precedes or it exists before light, beyond light, right? It is the basic fundamental element of what this reality is made of. It's much like your body is made up of 75 to 85% water, or the brain matter is made up of 85% water, right? And the rest is electrical signals that's being transferred from the eyeballs to the brain, or being transferred from the nervous system into the brain. Okay. So you can see the correlation here. So the correlation is that dark matter equates to equates to primordial water. So the universe, right, is likened unto the brain. So when we're looking at the universe, one thing that scientists realize is that the galaxies are clustered together and they resemble the shape and operating system as the brains or the neuroreceptors in the brains. Okay, so it's kind of like this. So they start clustering together. So this is the image of a neuroreceptor as well as the image in which galaxies form into clusters. And this is how electrical currents travel within the universe as well as in the brain. Okay, so there's a definite correlation between the two. So I wanted to get into just how our bodies and the universe are basically mirror images of each other, or they correspond, right? They correspond to basically give us an understanding of our internal processes of our bodies, right? So again, what we have here, let's look at the womb, okay? The womb is also a place that is filled with primordial darkness, or the wave of possibility, because as far as whether creation happens is, it's not always certain, right? It's not always certain. So again, the womb is, the universe is likened unto the womb. Yes. Okay. The way in which things operate in the universe is the same way in which things operate in the world. Okay. So what we have that's consistent is the darkness, the watery dark matter, as they call it, which is the basis of all reality, or the basis of creation. And then we have electrical signals, which is how our body works. So our body also operates on electromagnetism. Okay, so the electro part, the electricity is basically what light is, or how light travels through the dark matter. Okay, the magnetism is the field in which it operates in. Okay, so electromagnetism is, it always operates together. Okay, it never operates separately. It operates together. So our bodies operate on electromagnetism as well as the universe. Okay. Um, Let me see. Let's see. So one thing I want to speak to you guys about is just the fact that uh, there's so much correlation. I can definitely talk about it, but think about how scientists also say that stars are birthed. Why would they say that? Stars are birthed. The reason why stars are birthed is because, and guess how they're birthed? They're birthed from, black holes. Black holes, once they gather, first of all, black holes operate in a cyclical fashion. There's going to be moving in a circular motion, right? Because everything in the universe works that way. The debris, the dust and the gases, as they are forming around the black hole, it can easily turn into a star. Okay, so this is also a process in which fetuses are activated, right? So fetuses, as if you've ever watched a fetus grow, okay, the process of meiosis, it actually divides itself, and a fetus is shaped in this way. Hold on, let me turn this off. Let me show you guys something really quick. Really quickly. Really quickly, okay? So we're talking about black holes and correlating it with the womb, okay, and the process of creation of the human species, okay? Let me check the comment. Mm-hmm. The same one of those. Yes, ether is the perfect. It's a perfect name for the cosmos. Peace, Jody. Thanks so much for coming. Greetings, Ja. Um, Ja said, finally, science is acknowledging the consciousness of trees and plants. Same with animals. Some of us have been aware of this. and science is just passion. Exactly. 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 Okay. So again, this is how galaxies look, right? This is how galaxies look. This is also how fetuses look. This is also how seashells look. This is considered uh, the golden ratio or the golden spiral, right? So when you look at something like this is actually a result of a Fibonacci sequence. So it's kind of like one. So yeah, I forget. So basically, it's basically showing the Fibonacci sequence actually shows how the universe expands, right? Or how it creates, how it manifests the objects that we see, or the people, or the entities, right? Whatever you want to call it. But one thing that we understand is that the spiral is the blueprint for this Yoniverse, okay? So the fetus is shaped this way. This would be the head, and this would be the body, you know? This is also how stars are born. This is also how galaxies are shaped. If you look at your fingerprint, it's also in a spiral, okay? Everything about existence is in this shape. This is why it's called the golden spiral, because this is the blueprint of this entire existence, okay? So when we are talking about the universe, it's basically having the same conversation as talking about the inner processes of our bodies. Okay, so when we're talking about black holes birth stars, right? Or what happens in black holes is that it pulls in light. And this is something that scientists are really, really like. They are upset because they can't figure out exactly how black holes work. They can't understand how light goes in, and they can't measure a way in which what comes out at the other end. So again, everything about what we know about the universe is based on our ability to measure the processes of it. Basically, it's based on our level of perception. So right now, as we are in our densest state, our lowest level of consciousness, we're coming out of the Kali Yuga, but this is the reality that we're in right now. As we are devolved as beings, we can't possibly understand exactly how black holes work because we are unable to perceive what happens on the other side of that. Like what goes in the center of a black hole, right? Because we can't see what happens on the other side. So scientists are really upset about that. I find that hilarious. Um, but the black hole is likened unto the pupils of the eyes. Have anyone ever seen the eyes under a microscope? If you've ever looked at the eye under a microscope, you will see that it's not, the eyeball is not a solid thing where the center is just colored black. No, the pupil is space. It's a black hole. It is what you will call a tunnel in which light travels through to the back of the eye, the eyeball, right? So it is actually a portal, Okay, the eyes are portals. So this is why a lot of times people say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, is because they're portals. And that's pretty much the same thing as black holes, because once you go into a black hole, we in general as humans, we don't know what happens to the light that goes in there. We have no idea. But I can give you my speculation. Okay, I can give you my speculation. And once you enter a black hole from this particular universe, this reality, I would gather that you enter into the next one, as in a black hole is the, it's the portal to the next reality. Okay, like that's pretty much what I gather. And this is an inference that you can get from meditation and just going within that darkness and finding the truth of reality. That's pretty much how we do it. We go and figure out the truth of reality, because we can't rely on humans and with our little instruments and tools and scientific research and studies. Like, we have to be able to go beyond what scientists are telling us, because there's a lot of things that they're not even ready to admit yet. Okay, like the fact that gravity doesn't exist. I will get into that in another video, because I've been doing my very best, because again, I'm going to have a separate class for physics, which is basically just understanding our Earth, where we are, and basically finding you proof, because I know what this Earth is. I know that, you know, the Earth is flat. I know that space is water, right? So what I have been trying to do is find you guys sources in which you guys can look up and find, and basically find where the scientists are admitting but not admitting the truth. Like, you know what I mean? Like admitting it but not really admitting it. So that's what I've been looking for before I give you that full presentation. But the truth of the matter is that as we're talking about this reality, one thing I want us to understand is that this reality is an illusion. This reality is not physical. What this reality is dark matter, as they call it, or it's primordial chaos with the possibility of creating a reality based off of our perception of it. Okay, so from that, what we have here is what I want to show you. Let me see something. What I want to show you, if you don't mind, and this is actually the very last part of this class, but I want to be able to read to you guys for a second, if that's okay. If that's okay with you, I want to be able to read to you guys and help you with the understanding, okay? So basically, this entire Yoniverse, which is, remember in the beginning, sorry, excuse me. Remember in the beginning when we defined the universe and it was turning back to one, right? Turning back to one, understanding what that one is. That one is the primordial womb, right? So turning back to one. So when we say the Yoniverse, we are going back to our primordial womb, which is the darkness of creation, or the watery abyss, right? that's pretty much how we are, where we come from and what we're going back into. So turning back to the womb is how we receive true understanding of this reality. So this is why I tell people all the time the path to enlightenment is through the womb, because that is the true understanding, the true perception of our ultimate reality. Okay, so everything that we're seeing now is an illusion, because it's again light photons that we are perceiving, which means we have an effect on what we're perceiving, which means we are creating our reality, right? So we have to utilize our pineal gland, which is going to produce dimethyltryptamine or DMT, and that is the act of the ultimate consciousness or the great mother, right? And she is creating the collective reality again, okay? So while we have a small amount of control on our individual realities, she, the ultimate Godhead of this reality, the all oneness, the consciousness, or the ocean, the primordial ocean, is her womb, okay? And she has the ability to create this reality, okay? So I want to be able to read this to you. And if you guys do not have this, if you guys do not have this book, you guys should reference it. I mean, you don't have to buy it because there's so much there's so much articles online that kind of reiterates what it says. But I want to be able to read to you. This is the Kabbalion of Hermetic philosophy, right? And this is a study of the Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece. Okay, this is by the 3 initiates. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I want to read to you. I want to read to you where it gives us this ancient knowledge. Now, again, ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, they understood what we now as scientists are trying to prove. Okay, now scientists are trying to prove that the universe is mental. Okay, let me make sure that you guys can see me. Can you see me? Put this here. Okay. Okay, so this is the Kabbalion. How many people have this book? Or have you read it? Have you heard of it? This symbol here is the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, so it has a lot to do with the pineal gland, Philosopher's Stone, and understanding reality. So one thing in Yonivism is that we understand the 7 principles, the 7 hermetic principles that gives us the understanding of our universe. Okay, so the first principle is mentalism. So I'm just going to read this part to you. The first principle says, the all is mind, the universe is mental. Okay? The principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains, okay, it explains that the all, which is substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances, which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses. Remember, we spoke about perception, which is based upon what we can measure by the use of our physical senses. Okay, so they're speaking about it here. The all is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an
universal, infinite, living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. The principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. So that's the portion that I wanted to share with you. That is simply the first principle. And I believe today I gave you guys, the ability to understand the universe in its complexities in a basic fashion. You know what I mean? In a basic fashion, there's so much more that I can go deep into. Hopefully, this resonated as truth to you. If it didn't, then that just means you're not, um, vibrating on a proper frequency, which is fine. Which is fine. I definitely utilize frequency to be able to, gauge a person's level of enlightenment. Okay, what you're able to perceive as truth definitely shows your level of enlightenment, where you are on your journey in your spiritual path of returning to the Great Mother. Okay, so this is the main principle, but I definitely wanted to give you all of the understanding before summarizing it, giving it to you from here. This is just the ancient reference to where you could have gotten what somebody said. But sometimes when you read something like this, if you do not have the proper vision to see the correlations between, the universe, with the earth on a smaller scale, as also with our bodies on a smaller scale. If you cannot see those things, I wanted to make sure and I point out those things to you so that by the time I get to tell you what the principle is, it already makes sense. Okay, so this video is actually going to be really good if you want to understand the cycles and the correlation between time and consciousness. I actually have a video. If you check my playlist, my Yonism class playlist, you will be able to see the class called the Time Consciousness Correlation to understand the cycles of time and also how that works with our consciousness and how we evolve and devolve, right? Another video, another class that I did If you're trying to understand how the yoni is also a mind, then you want to watch the True Holy Trinity. That class definitely goes into the three minds and how the womb is also a mind, okay? Because a lot of times when you're going through different articles and you're reading about how the human body correlates with the universe, they usually utilize the brain, but just to push, right? Just to push the needle a little bit more and go beyond what the scientists are able to tell you, that video will help you go beyond just looking at the universe as a brain, but also seeing it as the womb, the place of creation. Okay. Um, so that is two videos that you can watch with this. Also, go ahead and go in the description. I also put a link to this book where you can buy it on Amazon. If you don't want to, you definitely don't have to. The information is definitely on the internet if you just want to look it up for free, right? But also there are articles where you can go ahead and do further reading about DMT, about black holes, about the universe, all that different stuff. I did put those in the link below for those of you who want to continue this research beyond this particular class. Because again, this class was definitely the basics. Okay, it's the basics. I will be doing a more advanced class where I go into the golden ratio a lot more. I go into perception a lot more. You know what I mean? There's so much more that I can go into this and how the color frequencies correlate with our chakras and this, that, and da. There's so much more. So I actually look forward to, sharing that with you guys, right? So what else? Don't forget, if you like this type of stuff, if you love it, please go ahead and like this video. Please give me a thumbs up and also subscribe. I always forget to tell you guys, I actually have all the videos on my channel. I've never told you guys to do that. But now I'm going to have to do my very best to say that. Go ahead and like the video. I do want to make sure that this information is being seen by people. So please help me spread this information. Please help more people come into my classes, because it's very important that we have teachers who genuinely just want to, teach you and elevate your consciousness without having an agenda. Like, all the information that I give you is free. If I'm providing you with books to, to buy, I'm not getting no money out of that. I didn't write this. This is not my book. I bought this for my own money. So I'm literally just teaching you just because I'm assisting the mass consciousness come back and return to the golden era of reality. Okay. So I'm here to help you. So do me a favor and help me out as well. Okay. So go ahead, like the video, share the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Yanism class is every Goddess Day, and Goddess Day is Friday. Every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and you can look forward to a live class every Friday, okay? So I want to thank you guys so much for coming. I want to thank you for showing up and, just giving yourself this time to elevate your consciousness. This is great for yourself. So yeah, hopefully I will see you all soon. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, much love, and remember to worship the Yoni. Before I go, do you guys have questions? I always forget to ask. Do you guys have questions so far of anything? Anything that was discussed today? And actually, what I would like for you guys to do is in the comments, please write down what you learned today. What did I speak about today that you have not heard, or I gave you a greater understanding of? Please do so in the comments. I would like to see what you learned today or what I was able to help you understand better.